again, Ayres.
Okay.
We got a lot of extra questions from our subscribers that are interested to hear more from you as an expert in this property market. Last time we covered a lot about how to find a property, something more generic about the market, how everything works here. But what we're really interested to hear with these next few questions is, what do you do once you've found the property? What is the property buying process like? Like, I want that house, Ayres. How do we get it?
Okay.
Like, how does that work here?
Great question. Okay. Normally, it's a negotiation between buyer agent and listing agent. Okay, they're talking between. Let's say hypothetically, you want to pay $480 in the property is listed for $530. Okay, we negotiate that with the listing agent. We try to find some common ground, some middle ground. So let's say hypothetically we reach an agreement that will be $500K. Okay, so that proposal is sent to the listing agent. The listing agent accepts that. Then there's two options. Either you put a reserve, which is normally like $5K or something like that, or in most cases, that I'm doing 99% of the cases, you schedule a CPCV, which is a promissory contract. Okay, and the amount that will be given in that promissory contract, it varies from 10 to 20%, sometimes 25%. It depends. It's a case-by-case scenario. Okay, what happens there, and that's scary for a lot of buyers, international buyers, is during the CPCV, okay, which is a contract with lots of clauses, okay, that the Coldwell banker lawyer will check everything. Let's say this is a partnership in between Coldwell banker and another brokerage. The other brokerage lawyer will also check everything, make sure there's common ground, everything is fine. The money goes from the buyer account to the seller's account, okay? A lot of countries in the world, that goes into an escrow account, and the money is withheld until the transaction is completed during the deed. That's not the case in Portugal, okay? Money goes from buyer account to seller account. However, by federal law, if the seller somehow messes up this deal, okay, they just can't, he just can't keep the money and run away, okay? By federal law, he's supposed to give double of that amount back to the buyer as a penalty, okay? So in my experience in real estate, I never had issues where, the buyer puts 10% or 15 or 20% down during the CPCV. So once the CPCV is done, all the due diligence is done, okay? The appraisal, if there's a bank involved, or there's a surveyor, if it's a cash buyer, everything will be scrutinized, in that property. If everything's fine, okay, then the deed is scheduled, okay? During the deed, the remaining balance will be paid. The key will be given to the buyer. Game over, game, set, match. The transaction is finished there. However, if it's a loan, okay, the bank is also involved. So the bank will send, in between CPCV and deed, the bank will send an appraiser, which would do, the full process of appraising the property. If everything comes fine, the bank will also be present at the deed, to pay for the whatever part they're paying off the property purchase. Okay. And
how long is that process when you say you want to buy a house, so that you actually get the keys in like a normal case?
It could vary from 2 weeks to 2 months, 3 months. It depends. There's several conditional clauses. If it's a financing, you need to depend on the bank, process to get that going, but it's generally quick. If the paperwork is all correct, it's generally quick. There's circumstances that, let's say hypothetically, this seller is selling this property, but he wants to buy a different property. So CPCV will say, seller needs 4 months to find another property. So it will be 4 months. It varies from situation to situation, but I would say the average, it's in between 2 weeks and 2 months. Okay, not more than that.
And how about if you're a foreigner and you're not yet in Portugal? Do you need to be in Portugal to complete the purchase, or can that be done when you're out of the country?
It all can be done by POA. I've had several properties that I sold in the last year. They're entirely done remote without the buyer ever being in Portugal. As long as you have a good lawyer and you sign a POA, the lawyer can do a power of attorney, a POA. Everything can be done remotely, okay? What is needed, and that's, again, you need a lawyer to do that, is you're going to need a fiscal number, which is the NIF, okay? You need a bank account open here, okay? If it's a golden visa, there's a couple steps that we will need to be taken care of, and your lawyer will be able to assist you with that. But it's pretty much what you need. Okay.
And if you're going here and you are going to finance your property, what sort of deposit do you need to have with you?
I mean, like I said, for the CPCV, normally between 10 and 20%, okay? Sometimes a little bit more. It varies from seller to seller. Sellers say, you know, I'm not going to sell this property if I don't get 25% down. It's part of the negotiation process. I would say in 80% of the cases it's 10%, 20% in some cases, very rarely above 25%.
So how do you, is there any due diligence that you have to undertake to make sure that the agent that you're working with is fully sort of qualified to assist you?
Okay. In Portugal, the process is different, you know, let's say from the US and other countries, that the agent is actually registered. Here's the brokerage that it's registered. So the first step is checking the brokerage, okay? You work for Coldwell Banker, obviously it's registered. So let's say our AMI here is 1032, okay? So that's the first step. Make sure that this is a registered brokerage, because then every agent that it's under that umbrella will be working under that license that belongs to the brokerage, okay? So this is very important. If there's no AMI, if you ask your agent, what's the AMI of your brokerage, and there's no AMI, you have to run away with that because it's not regulated, okay?
But also it's something about that you can actually check if the AMI is valid and belongs to the business, and it's not just a made-up number.
There's ways to do that, you know, yeah, you can do that online.
So really keen to understand from you, in the buying process, what sorts of things are the buyers responsible for and what sorts of things are the sellers responsible for during the process? Just an overview would be really helpful.
Okay. During the process, you know, in terms of costs, the buyer will have to pay the taxes, you know, the transfer, you know, the taxes that related to the transfer of the deed, okay, which normally is around 6%, okay, plus the stamp tax, plus the notary fees, okay. If the buyer does not have a lawyer at all, okay, he can use the brokerage lawyer for his process. If he wants to have a lawyer independently checking, normally lawyers charge between 1 or 2% of the process. So if you're buying a 500,000 house, you can expect to pay 5 to 10,000 in lawyer fees, okay? The seller will be responsible for paying the commissions to the brokerage, okay? And, you know, if they own, you know, capital gains tax or whatever, they're going to be paying that. But in terms of the transaction, they will be paying the brokerage commissions plus IVA, which is the VAT, you know, taxes, okay?
And does the seller have any sort of responsibilities in case of there's anything is wrong with the property that you first find out of after you've already purchased the property? If, for example, if you haven't seen the property before you buy it, if you're an overseas buyer and you just trust an agent on a virtual tour, for example.
If it's like a foreign buyer, I highly recommend to get a surveyor, and you know, just that, getting a lawyer to check everything, because after the purchase has been made, you can go back and say, you know what, I didn't know this and that, because you had a chance during the process between the CPCV and the deed to find out anything about this property, okay? And the fact that the property actually went through a deed and it was approved in a deed by the notary, which is, you know, an official, certification, it means that the property was legal to be sold, okay? If there's any issues there, you should have verified that prior to the purchase, okay?
So there's no insurance that exists to safeguard after the fact, because there is in Denmark,
yeah, for example, in Denmark, it's very different that you have, I think it's 6 months after you've bought the property and after you get the keys, the seller is still responsible for anything that they should have told you that was wrong with it. So
okay.
The seller carries a lot of responsibility. So it's very different from the market.
Indeed. In Portugal, if it's a new property, okay, if it's a property that's brand new, we'll carry a 5-year warranty by the builder, okay? In a development or like the detached house, whatever it was built recently. In terms of the transaction in a house that it's an existing house, you won't have the protection.
I'll ask the question. Okay. Don't worry. He's not getting preparation time. So, Ayres, if you find a house and you say that it's 99% perfect, but you may just need like a pool, or you want to build an extra room to the house or something. How difficult is it to obtain planning permission and actually have like modifications done to a house that you want to buy?
Internal modifications are not complicated at all. A pool, what I normally ask people to do is hire a company that builds pools, specialize in that, because they will know the chamber, how it works, the local chamber. They will know how the permits work. They will know what kind of materials and conditions are approved within that specific, chamber. So hire someone that knows what they're doing. Don't bring a guy from Denmark to bring to build a pool. We're laughing, but it does happen. Sometimes I sell for people that and oh yeah, we don't trust Portuguese builders. We're gonna build some from Germany. Yeah. He's gonna come here. He has no clue about local rules and regulation. And then it becomes, a completely complicated process that didn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
Just interview 5 or 6, find someone that you like, go with that guy, because he will know how to get things approved in the chamber. Things are very specific in Portugal, okay, when it comes to chambers. One chamber might approve this kind of thing, and the other one say no, okay?
Yeah, because everything is so individually managed in each small area.
And not just that, you have, let's say this is close to a forest. This is close to a water, a pond or something that you need. There's so many things that are local that you can't really come from another country and think that you're going to do the same thing that you did in Denmark or in Hamburg or in London and think that it's going to be fine. So it's not how it works.
So Ayres, should you be completely in love with a house and just buy with your emotions, or is there some more like a practical method that you should apply once you go ahead and make the decision of buying a property?
Buying a property needs to be a pragmatic decision, okay? I understand that emotions heavily involved, okay? But it needs to be a pragmatic decision. So I see all the time people that, from other countries that, oh, I look at this beautiful house in the middle of this city, which is 3 hours from Lisbon, 3 hours from Porto, 3 hours from any major city, but it's beautiful, it's so cute. I have dreamed my whole life about this house. But they don't realize it's a village of 167 people. The nearest supermarket is about 35 minutes away, and it's only one supermarket. You don't have any hospitals, so if you have any medical emergency, you're at least an hour and a half from a hospital.
Shopping centers what matters.
Yes, and not just it's a lot of things that people go only with the emotional side, and they don't think with the practical side, which is nobody's getting younger. That's one thing that never has happened in the history of mankind, is anyone getting younger, from one day to another. We're always getting older every single day. So. And they fall in love with that. They have, people, when you think about, we go again to the nest thing. Sometimes you grow up in a neighborhood that it wasn't ideal, didn't like that neighborhood, but you had a friend that lived in the perfect house by the beach, and you always had the dream, oh, I want to have this and that. And you go for the emotion side, so you might overpay. It's a beach house, but it's 500,000 more than you should be paying because you fell in love with that.
Yeah.
So a buyer agent can help you tone it down, do a pragmatic decision, and buy what you need. With your emotional side needs to be on it, but the pragmatic side needs to be the main one driving this purchase and not just the emotional one.
So for those people who are interested in working with you or your team, Ayres, who want Coldwell bankers to help realise their dreams here in Portugal, what's the best way to start a relationship with you? What's the first step?
We're pretty much everywhere in social media, okay? We're a team, Ocean 7. Every one of us has its own individual page. We're also featuring the Coldwell Banker Portugal page, Coldwell Banker Luxus. And that's another thing that I want to add here, which is very unique to our company. Before we were Coldwell Banker, okay, Luxus was one of the most reputable real estate companies in Portugal. We've been in business for over 30 years in Portugal. This is prior to being Coldwell Banker. So the owners of Luxus went to the US and bought the rights for Coldwell Banker and got approved, which is not easy to get approved by Coldwell Banker. So they brought tradition of over 30 years of experience in Cascais, selling luxury and mass market properties too. Okay.
And if any of you want to get in touch with Ayres, we'll include all the details of that in the description below. So, Ayres, why should people not just go solo and just go on the big portals and find a property and just go ahead that way? Why is it important to get someone like yourself or any of the other buyer's agents that exist?
Okay. First of all, it doesn't cost anything. Okay, a buyer agent would not cost you a penny. Second of all, most people that come to buy property in Portugal from foreign countries, unless they're from Brazil or Angola, will speak a foreign language and will not speak Portuguese. So you're navigating a market that you don't know the laws, the rules of the land. You don't know how it works, the process of buying a property. You don't know if this property that you're about to buy is completely legal or not. And even if you get a lawyer, negotiating by yourself with the seller without some local help here, because the lawyer will not help you negotiate the price property. Okay, you have to do it yourself. Mm-hmm. So you don't speak the language, and you're going to try to, let's say, you might be overpaying for that property. Okay, which is something very undesirable as a buyer. So why not use someone who's local, who has knowledge to help you ease this transition and ease this purchase you're planning?
Yeah, and also if you were overpaying, you would have a harder time selling it if you want to sell it in some years.
Indeed.
Why is it that we're not, like in the UK, for example, you see so many property flippers where people just buy it and refurbish it, get it up to a higher standard and sell it straight away? Why is that not the case here?
Because it's a little bit more complicated here because of the capital gains tax. Okay, so if you buy a property for 500, you sell the property for 600 6 months later, you have to pay capital gains on that. You'll be able to deduct, the taxes you pay, the commission you pay to a realtor, and any improvements that you made on that property, any renovations you made on that property. However, still not as profitable as the operation in the US or the UK, where people are flipping houses like crazy and making great money. The capital gains tax kind of limits your ability to make money with that. It's not that it's impossible, okay? It does happen and people make profits in that, but it's not as easy as in the US or UK.
And also there's one more aspect of it. If you were going ahead and selling it after some years, there's some tax that you have to pay if you're buying another property with that money, right?
Yes.
So you have to pay property tax of first the 500,000, and then when you've sold it and you want to buy the next property for 500,000, you have to pay the same property tax once again of the next property.
Exactly. Okay. Which is people run away from that. Okay.
Understandably.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking time out to help us both make the first video and now the second video here to answer a bunch of our viewers' questions. As you all know, we'll include all relevant contact information and stuff like that in the description if you want to speak to Ayres or his team here at Coldwell Bankers. So please have that sent over to us, and we will include that. And thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure, and count on me or anything you need. Okay, and good luck for the channel. It's a great channel. I'm very happy to be featured on it. Okay.
Thank you. We might come back.